We spend so much time and money on firewalls, on encryption, all this digital stuff. But what if the biggest threat isn't a hacker 1,000 miles away, but someone who can just walk right in? Today, we are diving deep into physical security, the foundation that honestly can make or break everything else.
I mean, think about it for a second. It's such a simple question, but it gets right to the point. You can build the most incredible digital fortress the world has ever seen, but what good is it if someone can just stroll into your server room and pull the plug? That's what we're tackling today.
And really, that's the bottom line here. To be a truly great security pro, you've got to think beyond the keyboard. You have to understand how the physical world and the digital world crash into each other, because you can bet that's exactly where the attackers are looking for a crack in the armor. All right, so where do we even start with all this? Well, you start at the very edge. The absolute first line of defense is all about locking down the perimeter, the outermost boundary. We're going to build our security fortress from the outside in.
Let's start with something we all know, the humble fence. It seems so basic, right? But it's way more than just a barrier. It's a huge psychological line in the sand. Its main job is to say, this is private property. It turns someone who's just wandering by into a deliberate intruder, and that's a massive deal, both for security and legally.
But of course, not all fences are the same. A really effective security fence has to be tough, so you can't just push it over. It's got to be tall enough that climbing it is a serious pain. For the really sensitive spots, you'll see things like razor wire on top. And you even have to think about whether you want a fence you can see through to spot threats from far away, or one that's opaque to hide what you're protecting inside.
Okay, so a fence is great for stopping people on foot, right? But what about a car or a truck? A fence isn't going to do much there. And that's where our next layer comes in, bollards and barricades. These are the unsung heroes of perimeter security.
They've really got two main jobs. First, they can guide people, kind of like a funnel, forcing everyone to walk through a single checkpoint where they can be checked. And second, and this is the big one, they stop vehicles cold. No ramming your way through a gate. Just their presence alone screams, hey, this is a high-security area, turn back.
This sounds so simple, almost too simple, but it's a golden rule of physical security. Bad guys love the dark. It's their best friend. It gives them cover. So just by lighting an area up, you take away all those sneaky shadows. Good lighting doesn't just scare intruders off, it also makes all your other tools, like cameras, way more effective.
All right, we've got our perimeter locked down. Now, someone who's supposed to be there needs to get inside. This brings us to the next critical layer, the gateways and, of course, the guardians who protect them. This is all about controlling those official entry points. And this is where the human element comes in, right? The security guard. A good guard isn't just a warm body in a chair. They are an active, thinking, decision-making part of your security system. They're at that front desk, they're checking IDs, and they are making sure that only the right people get through that door.
But here's a critical question. How do you make sure the security is, well, secure? A really powerful idea is called two-person integrity. Think about it. If you have just one guard, they could be bribed or blackmailed or just make a mistake. But if you have two or more people, they act as a check on each other. It makes it so much harder for anyone to bend the rules.
Okay, next up, something we've all probably used, the ID badge. On the surface, it's just a quick visual check. Hey, does that person's face match the picture? But modern badges are so much more. They're actually electronic keys. And every single time you swipe that badge to open a door, it creates a digital log. It's a record of who went where and when. Now, for really high security places like a data center, just a locked door isn't going to cut it. You have to control not just who gets in, but how they get in. And that brings us to the big leagues, the access control vestibule, which a lot of people call a Mantrap.
So let's actually walk through how this works step by step. First, you swipe your badge at the outer door. It unlocks, and you step into this little room. Then, that first door closes and locks, thwump, right behind you. Only when the system knows that first door is totally secure will it even think about unlocking the second door to let you into the building. It's a perfect one-person-at-a-time system, and it makes it basically impossible for someone to sneak in behind you.
So, we've covered physical barriers, and we've covered people. But, we can't have eyes everywhere at once. That's where technology steps in. This part is all about the unseen sentinels, the sensors and cameras that are on duty 24/7.
And of course, the big one everyone knows is CCTV, closed-circuit television.
And this isn't just one camera on a pole, it's a whole network of them, all streaming their video back to one central spot where someone can watch it live and, crucially, where it's recorded for later.
And wow, modern cameras are not just sitting there recording, they are smart. They can detect motion automatically, they can be trained to identify specific objects, they can do facial recognition, and even read license plates off moving cars. They've gone from being passive recorders to powerful, active security tools.
But here's the thing about cameras. They only see what we see. They need light. So what happens when it's pitch black? And what about detecting things a camera might just miss? Well, for that, we need a whole different family of sensors that see the world in a totally different way.
So let's break down the big three types, shall we? You've got infrared sensors. These guys are looking for changes in heat, like body heat, perfect for detecting if a person walks into a room. Then you have microwave sensors, which send out radio waves and can cover huge open spaces, like a warehouse. And finally, ultrasonic sensors use high-frequency sound waves, which is awesome for very precise motion detection in a specific zone.
Okay, we've talked about fences, guards, cameras, sensors, all these different pieces. But the real magic isn't in any single one of them. The most important concept, the thing that ties it all together, is how they form layers of security.
Think of it like a medieval castle. A single wall can be climbed, a single gate can be broken. But the goal isn't to build one single perfect barrier. The goal is to build defense in depth, where each layer slows an attacker down, makes them work harder, and dramatically increases the chances that they're gonna get caught.
So let's just recap the journey we've taken an attacker on, right? First, they hit the perimeter. Fences, bollards, bright lights. If they somehow get past that, now they have to deal with the gateways. Guards, locked doors, and maybe even a mantrap. And the whole time, they are being watched by those unseen sentinels, a whole web of cameras and sensors. See? Each layer supports the others.
And that really brings us full circle, doesn't it? We've seen how physical security is the absolute bedrock for all of our digital security. But the threats are always changing, and the line between the physical and digital worlds is getting blurrier every day. So the question I want to leave you with is this: what's next? What's going to be the next essential layer we have to build?